everyone, I am here with Alexis Denny. She is the recruiter at Siemens. Thank you so much, Alexis, for being here with me today. Can you tell us a little bit about Siemens and what do you do there?
Yeah, no, thanks, Maria, for taking the time to speak with me today. So yes, I am a recruiter for Siemens, specifically Siemens Government Technologies Division. So as you guys may be familiar, maybe not, Siemens is a global conglomerate. So to say what they do in a nutshell is pretty hard to do, but I'll go ahead and just name like the major divisions. So they do things with smart infrastructure, digital industries, mobility, and Siemens Health and Air. So they're in a lot of different areas. Basically, anything that Siemens can do, they're in. So yeah, that's just a little bit about them.
Awesome. So I know that you are an IB alum. How did the IB program prepare you for your career in Siemens?
Yeah, so it prepared me for a lot of the team, like the dynamic, just the IB culture in general. So working on a lot of different teams and the exposure to a lot of different classes that mimic business skills. So, that project management class, that was really valuable. And then, just the teams being worked in there throughout all the classes, making exposing you to a lot of different types of people working in various teams. That's very much how it is in the business world. You're not just working with the same types of people. You bounce in between various functions. And so I think that the classroom style setup, how it is throughout the program, is beneficial, as well as just the exposure to those courses. Yeah, like I mentioned, project management, data analytics, learning those macros. I know that was annoying, but it's super important and it really does help. And it just gives you a better understanding. And these are real skills that you use every day and employers are looking for as well. So.
Awesome. So what are some skills that your company looks for in potential hiring candidates?
Yeah. So it really does depend on the position, obviously, but I'll just speak to new grads. So obviously pretty understanding that new grads, you're probably only going to have a few internships or maybe some sort of part-time job, a co-op, something along those lines. So really, I think communication skills is the number one as far as representing yourself and telling your story. But just by looking at a resume, that's obviously tricky to do. That's probably the next step. So for resume, I think it's just super important to whatever job description or job that you're applying for, identifying those technical skills and soft skills and making sure that whatever those 2 to 4 big ticket items are that they're looking for, they're shown on your resume. And I think that's the big thing. So it varies position to position.
Great. So when you're looking at a prospective intern or employee resume, what are some signs that you may want to call them for an interview?
Yeah. So again, if they're a good match to the job that I'm hiring for. So, a degree is important, obviously, if that's in line with the job I'm hiring for. And also the technical skills, maybe they've worked on a school project that had some exposure to this software. That's great. If that was included on the resume, I see, okay, obviously they're not proficient, but they've been exposed to the tool. They could navigate it. That's great. Little things like that. And also then including the soft skills and just showing, and the way you can show that in a resume is by communicating that you worked in a team to accomplish X, Y, and Z goal, and here is the outcome. So I think, weaving the soft skills into your resume with your technical skills. So that helps me.
Great. So how important is a potential candidate LinkedIn to your hiring process? Equal to a resume or less or more important?
I would say, I don't know if it's less or more. I think they really have to just be linked together. But I think LinkedIn is actually super important for just job seekers. It's 75% of our applicants that apply to our jobs. I see the source, and the source is LinkedIn. So that's how people are seeing that our jobs are available. I'll only speak to Siemens, obviously. But I think for a job seeker, it's just great exposure in general. And if you're not on LinkedIn, you're missing out on so many different possibilities, and it does the legwork for you. It, suggest jobs that align with your profile and your resume. So I think it's actually super important for job seekers. And of course, myself, it allows me to, source and see those applicants come through. And I do use LinkedIn. So I would say it's very important for job seekers, just for exposure. And I would say also just from recruiting, it is nice to see that someone has a LinkedIn. Sometimes I tilt my head a little bit if they don't. It's not a disqualifier, but it does kind of put you off a little bit because it kind of suggests that they're not as professional or polished.
Right. So what kind of internships do you have for business majors?
We have a ton. And it really does just depend on what you're interested in. But I would say for business majors, the typical ones: finance, marketing, even communications, supply chain, logistics, business development, pre-sales, obviously HR. And I mean, sky's the limit. There's a lot that business can do, depending on what you're interested in. So I actually think it's, you have the most exposure being a business student as opposed to some of the other majors where they get locked in. So there's a lot of different routes.
So how helpful it is for a job candidate's chances to get hired to have at least one internship on the resume?
I think it's extremely important. I really do. For many, many, many reasons. But, just the big ticket items are: one, it exposes you to the like those technical skills or their software that company uses, and you can use that and leverage that on your resume. So that's one thing. Two, employers love to see it because it indicates to them that you have that real world experience. You've had an office style experience, whether it's virtual or not, it's still the same. You've worked on teams, you've worked on a project, you had a goal, you had tasks to complete outside of the, school setting. It is different. Not too different, but still different. And it also shows them that you're eager, hungry, and you're passionate about what you're learning. You wanted to go out and explore. You wanted to dive in deeper. You wanted to have an understanding. So I think those three things are the really big ones. It's very important.
Great. So do you take pattern-related job experience into account, things like retail or restaurant work?
It really depends on what you're going for. So, I guess I'll just speak, I'll just keep it to business students. But if you want to be like a fashion merchandiser and you're applying to, Buckle Corporate or TJ Maxx Corporate or, something along those lines, and you worked retail and you're a store manager, that's awesome. You should include that because it says, hey, I know the product. I know how to move things on the floor. And even though I want to move into a corporate environment because I have my degree now, I know how this works. And that's great. But if it's not related and you're trying to get more of a desk job or business analyst, I think I would stray away from that and then highlight more your coursework, the course projects where you used Excel macros or you did whatever. I think it really depends on what you want after graduation. You definitely can leverage that experience, but I think it's tailored to, again, what you want after graduation.
In the College of Business, there are many international students. Does Siemens offer sponsorship for international students?
So it does vary depending on the Siemens division and even, going down to a micro level, certain positions. So I think, big answer, yes. But I think also if students are in that position, they should speak up, whether they're speaking with a recruiter or a hiring manager, and ask that question if it hasn't already been asked to them, hey, this is my situation. Do you offer sponsorship? I think it's important to be upfront because there are times where, you get through the process and then you find out. For Siemens Government Technologies, we require our employee population to hold secret clearances. So for us, we don't, but other divisions do. So whatever your situation is, always be transparent on what you need, and you'll find the right place for you.
Awesome. So when interviewing a prospective employee, what are some actions that can make that person stand out?
Yeah. You said for interviewing?
Yes.
Okay. Communication and presence, I think, is very important. How you hold yourself and how you tell your story. Obviously we've seen resumes that are rock star resumes, and you get someone in front of you and they're a computer and you're like, oh goodness, they're not going to be able to work in a team well, or I'm a little nervous about this. They have the hard skills, not the soft skills. So I do think it's important to sell yourself and sell your story. A lot of times, like you mentioned, maybe you had to work a part-time job through college to help support yourself. I had to do that. And I also had internships. So how do you weave these disjointed experiences together to show that you're good for this job? And I think that's where you can use that experience. You can, instead of putting on your resume, use it then. And you can show yourself, I waited tables. I know how to walk up to, I know how to present myself to strangers during this interview. And they'll see that, with your communication style and how you tell your story. So I think, especially for new grads, I would say what really puts them above the rest is clearly and concisely communicating their skills and experience and how that relates to the job at hand.
Awesome. So the last question, what are some things that a college student that is interested in working for your company can do to get their foot in the door?
Yeah. So I know that people get scared about this, but networking really is extremely important. It can be intimidating, but it's a huge, I don't know the statistic, but so I got my position at Siemens from my personal network. And I truly don't know too many people who have gotten, their positions without networking. Whether that's a virtual career fair or, utilizing your, utilizing IB alumni, utilizing really just any network you have. And making sure that those are genuine connections. It could even be your professors. Maybe it's one professor that, you enjoy their class. Reach out to them, say, hey, do you know anyone who's hiring? Do you know any good companies? Even that way, just doing research. So networking, I think, is extremely important. And career fairs. And also, it's not just networking. You always have to make sure that you're leaving a good impression. To whoever that is. So yeah, I really do think that getting your foot in the door is all about who you know. And the only way to do that, especially if you're starting from scratch, maybe your parents or family isn't exactly like in that field that you want to dive into. I think you just have to put yourself out there, start meeting people, and following up is important.
Awesome, Alexis. Those were all the questions that I have for you. Thank you very much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you.